everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the new moon that's happening in Taurus at 18 degrees on May 7th, 2024. Now this new moon in Taurus is happening just weeks after we had a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the same sign of Taurus, and this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is actually still within orb when we have this new moon. So there's definitely a connection between that transit and the new moon that we're having now. This new moon is also tightly sextiling Saturn, which means that Saturn is helping us to materialize any seed that we're planting during this new moon. And this new moon may have something to do with anything that's come up for us in that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction timeframe. Now, as we mentioned in the video I did about that, that is a 14-year cycle. I'll link that video down below so you can check to see in what area of your life and how Jupiter and Uranus will be helping bring some sort of revolution into that part of your chart. And I think it's important because we're going to just expand on that. And what I like to do in my videos is to kind of interweave these stories in our lives, because all of these transits are not happening in a vacuum. There's this interconnectedness in the sky, and astrology has really helped me be able to recognize that, see the patterns, and recognize that we're always working towards a story in our lives. It's not just like this is happening for no absolute reason. It has nothing to do with whatever is happening after that. Oh, yes, huge disclaimer. So originally I had made a first part to this video, and it was just going over the overview of the energies during this time. And then I did a second part that was for the all signs. I decided to actually scrap the first video. So in the all signs portion, which I still think is very valuable, which is why I'm keeping it, if I talk about or refer to the first part of the video, know that that doesn't exist. And really, as long as you just listen to this brief, I do have a tendency to not be very succinct. But I'm not even gonna try my best, because why, but in this brief overview that I'll give in the beginning of this video, I am going to go over still some of the things that I feel intuitively and that I see astrologically around this new moon. So the way that I see it, we had this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on April 20th, and then it was immediately followed by the new moon in Scorpio, and that was also squaring Pluto. So that was a really intense full moon that we had, and I felt it myself. I was exhausted for days after, and I heard a lot of other people feeling very similarly, having a lot of things happen in their lives during that full moon, because not only was it in Scorpio, but it was also squaring Pluto. And we'll get to that in a second too, because, in that full moon video, I talked about how there was such a concentration, and there still is a concentration of energies in the Aries and Taurus part of our chart, a little bit of Pisces too. But it's the full moon in Scorpio was like highlighting something that we needed to see on the other side of our chart before we move forward with this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and with this new moon that we're having in a very stable sign of Taurus, sextiling the stable sign or stable planet of Saturn. So it was like it needed to balance something out. It needed to illuminate something for us before we can move forward. And then just a week after that full moon, we had Venus, who had moved into Taurus, which is its domicile. So Venus likes being in Taurus. But then on April 30th, around May 1st, and the days before and after, Venus made a square to Pluto. So the full moon was square to Pluto, Venus was square to Pluto about a week after. And that was another situation, because Pluto is now moving retrograde, but it was stationed to go retrograde at that time. So when a planet is stationing to go direct or retrograde, it is very powerful, and the energy is amplified. So when Venus is squaring Pluto, especially in fixed signs of Taurus and Aquarius, this can really bring up some tension in those areas of our lives where we have Taurus and Aquarius. So once again, I feel like the Scorpio full moon was bringing something up, illuminating that Scorpio house. And then a week after, the Taurus house and our and Aquarius house were clashing again. And regardless of where you have those houses, when we have Venus square Pluto, it usually does involve relationships, how we relate to other people, our relationships in our lives, and our values. So many of you may have felt something come up once again at the end of April, beginning of May, in regards to those areas of your chart, but also really for everybody, I think relationships. And once again, this is serving a similar purpose as a full moon in Scorpio, just in a different way. But I think in order for us to move into this new moon that is so grounded, so earthy, and stabilizing, uh, these things have to come up, right? These issues have to come up for us to see them clearly before we can move forward with this new moon and the intentions that we're setting for this new moon cycle, which lasts about 6 months. Yeah, so if you can take that into context about all of the chaos and stress that you could have had, and not everyone experienced the full moon that way, obviously, but if you did, and even if it wasn't that chaotic, if we can use that in context of there's something that is wanting to be grown in our lives, right? The Jupiter Uranus conjunction that is still within orbit, it's lasting the next 14 years really for this cycle. We really do have to make way for the new, but also we have to get clear about certain things in our lives. And it seems like Pluto is really wanting to, before it goes retrograde, it was really wanting to be like, okay, like I'm showing you this, so you have this information. It may be difficult, but I'm giving you the information you need, the transformations you might need, the chaos you might need, the death and rebirth you might need to see the power struggles you may be having before we move into this new moon. So when you make this new moon intention, it's really based in as much embodiedness and stability and groundedness that we can have, right? Like we are always just doing the best that we can as we move forward. So let's talk about this new moon. Like I said, it's happening at 18 degrees Taurus, very stable, earthy, grounded, embodied. It feels like a really great and ripe time for like a new seed to be planted in this part of our lives, in this area of our lives, this house of Taurus. There's also support for taking responsibility at this time. So, like, what are we going to be doing in order to make this new plant or new seed that we're planting germinate? And how are we going to support this? Because Saturn is sextiling this. And when Saturn sextiles things, it's almost like there's a background energy of Saturn happening there. But sometimes with sextiles, we don't take the opportunity because it is an easier aspect. It's not like in our face that Saturn's like making us do something. So we want to take the conscious effort to recognize what is Saturn wanting from us: responsibility, I guess some sort of structure, but really just taking responsibility and saying, yes, we are going to put in the hard work to make this happen. The first half of May, honestly, to me, still feels like we're very focused on this contained area of our lives. Like we're putting one foot in front of the other, and we're not really being able to like look up and see the bigger picture at all times. But it feels like this energy is like this for a reason right now. And to me, it's because as we move through this year is really a transitional year, in my opinion. I think we've been in a huge transition since 2020 and until 2027. So I know it's like it sounds like a really long time, but in terms of the universal time frame, it's not. So that's just the energy I feel. And so this may not be like, well, I don't even want to say that. All I want to say is that April was chaotic, right? We knew that going into this year that April was the most astrologically intense time of the month of the year. So May feels lighter. It is going to feel lighter because it's not April. So But I think that the reason why we have such a stabilizing, like one foot in front of the other, contained kind of energy right now is because in order for us to start feeling lighter, we need to make sure that we're building, Taurus, we're building foundations that are stable as much as they can be so that we can feel free to take off and be lighter in other areas of our life, like when Jupiter moves into Gemini. With this new moon, because it's the new beginning of this 6-month cycle, but it also ties into this 14-year cycle that we have with Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus, allow yourself to access some farsightedness, right? Like I said, we want to keep it one foot in front of the other and like really focus on what we're doing right now and building that foundation, but also allow yourself to access like, what do I really want to be building for the next 6 months, 14 years? The moon loves being in Taurus. So there is an inherent desire for like peace, stability, and harmony during this time after this craziness that's been happening. And Saturn only reinforces this. So, with this new moon, and with all new moons, there's a level of conscious effort that takes place, right? Like it doesn't have to be this whole big ritual, but with full moons, we are like, there's an intensity to them generally, right? With the opposition that's happening. And with new moons, it's more like we are taking the conscious effort to bring something about. And during the actual day of the new and full moon, I generally recommend stillness and reflection. So, journaling or sitting and meditating or just reflecting upon what changes you want to be making during this new moon. And then maybe the day after or the day after that, actually planting that seed while the moon is going to be waxing. And this time is like, that time of reflection is like recognizing what kind of a seed you want to plant. That's just the best metaphor I have for new moons. And what actions you want to take, what you want to see culminate in November of this year at the end of the 6-month cycle when we have a full moon in Taurus. One of my favorite things about astrology that I think often gets overlooked is the importance of cycles. I mean, we could do a million videos about the synodic cycles and the cycles within cycles and the big cycles. And the more you start recognizing this, the easier that it gets to get to see life as a big story and a big picture. Because like I said, this is the start of a 6-month cycle, but really it's a part of a 14-year cycle in the Taurus house of our Taurus part of our chart. And so if we can start seeing that all of these things are working together, I think it gives me more faith in myself, in the universe, and in the process that is life, right? Really, there is no end goal that we're going towards except death. That's Pluto retrograde talking right now. But I think that's just such an important aspect of astrology that will help us understand it in a much more holistic view and bring a lot of perspective if we're going through difficult times. I know that it does for me, for sure. At the same time of this new moon, Mercury is joining Chiron for the third and final time. So the first time was on March 20th. Then it happened while Mercury was in retrograde on April 15th. And now it's happening for the third time. So speaking of cycles, that's another time frame that you can look at because Mercury in Aries conjunct Chiron in Aries is a time where we are thinking about our communications, our thoughts, and our interactions day to day, pretty much. Because Chiron is the wounded healer. He has a wound of rejection that didn't heal, yet he continued to go on and heal others, and eventually even gave up his life for another. So there is this theme of rejection, healing others even when we're in pain, and sacrifice with this planetoid. And Mercury, like I said, it deals with our communication, our thoughts, our mind, writing. So really, these two have been moving together since March, and this has been a big time for us to look at our speech, communication, writing, thoughts, thought patterns. Are we using those things to heal others or hurt them? Have we been the victim of harsh words or some sort of ego rejection? And now we're sending that energy back into the world to hurt others? Are we having the healing conversations that we need to be having? What is the outcome of these conversations? And they could be very healing, even if that means through some sort of pain or loss. So I also want to say that Aries is the natural first house ruler. So there is something about identity and outlook always associated with this too. So maybe the thoughts we have around our ego and our speech, and how are we trying to protect our ego and our identity when we're speaking to others, is that hurting them? Is that hurting us? Is that healing them? Is that healing us? Those are just some things to think about. And one of my favorite quotes from Rumi, when he talks about to don't turn your head, keep looking at the bandaged place. That's where the light enters you. That's a very Chiron kind of situation. So in this scenario, we're doing it in regards to our thoughts, communication, speech, and writing. And the North Node is also in Aries. So this part of our lives, there's a push to put a lot of energy into this in this part of our lives. And this isn't a video about the North Node. I might briefly talk about that in some of the all signs because it might be more important for them. But just know that also during this time, like the North Node in Aries is sitting relatively close enough to the Mercury Chiron conjunction in that part of your chart. Now, in the all signs, I'm going to go through this already, so I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I do believe that the last year of Jupiter and Taurus has brought this theme of like simplification and decluttering in our lives. It seems like it's been a year of getting down to the things that really matter, and especially in that part of our chart that's ruled by Taurus. But just in general, there's this energy that we are, like I said, we're really focusing on the foundations so that we can rebuild something newer and more aligned for us at this time. So I think that's all I have to say about the general time of this new moon. And I will go ahead and insert the video for all signs now. As always, please let me know how this resonates with you down below. I love hearing about how you guys are experiencing these transits and just what you think about everything that's going on in your life and astrologically. And yeah, until next time. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing the second part to the video that I did about the new moon in Taurus. In this video, I'm going to go through sign by sign. All right, so without further ado, let's begin. So for Aries, Sun, and Rising, this new moon is happening in Taurus in your second house, and there's a sextile by Saturn in your 12th house. Now, we've talked a lot about your second house lately because there's just a lot of movement in your first and second house right now. So this new moon is starting, a 6-month cycle. But really for me, I think the important part about this new moon is that it's happening while Jupiter and Uranus are still within orb. And I made a video about Jupiter and Uranus. I'll link it down below if you haven't watched it for your sign yet, because I go into detail about kind of what that is really looking towards for each sign. And the new moon is really allowing us, because new moons are a time for us to plant a seed, to start something new. It's a fresh start, right? And then the full moons are more like culminations. And sometimes you can take actions during full moons as well, but a lot of times it's really about releasing, seeing something through and then releasing. So we're moving through these cycles every 2 weeks. And this one is happening in Taurus, and the moon likes being in Taurus, right? So, and it's being sextile by Saturn. So, this is still a very grounded, earthy time for us. And like I said in my first part of the video that I did, I really think that the beginning of May and really this full moon, it's giving us an opportunity to really tune into what we want to materialize out of the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. Because this universe has a plan for us, but we also have free will, right? So, this is really where we can decide what we want in that area of our lives. And the second house is about your income, about jobs that you may have. It's about your self-esteem, your sense of value, your material resources. It can even have something to do with your voice. And I want to go back in history just a little bit. So in from January 2022 to July 2023, you had North Node in Taurus in your second house. Now, what North Node can do, or Rahu as they call it in the Vedic tradition, is it puts a lot of energy into that house. And what can happen is there can be an obsessive quality in that house, or there can be a lot of desires there. It can increase our desires there. So maybe you went through a period of time where there was a lot of focus on money. There was a lot of focus on income, your value, your material resources. And even if that didn't materialize in your life, the energy was really focused on that. And what happened was Jupiter came in May of 2023. So, somewhere between May and July of 2023, this process began of Jupiter refining everything that the North Node expanded on, or obsessed about, or brought these desires to. Jupiter is not a thinning planet, it's an expanding planet, right? But it's also a refining planet. It's very high cultured. It's about higher education, higher principles, higher learning. So, what it's been doing, and in the sign of Taurus, it's been consolidating, simplifying, streamlining, and decluttering in that Taurus house. So, all this like craziness that North Node brought about, Jupiter is saying what is staying that we want to really expand on and what is going. And so for me, I think that because Jupiter is moving into, I'm going to make a video about Jupiter and Gemini. So I don't want to get too much into it. Jupiter doesn't love being in Gemini, but I think there are worse placements for Jupiter. Okay. And even though it's in detriment, Gemini still sextiles your sun or your rising if you're an Aries sun or rising or moon. So it's an easier transit for you. And when Jupiter moves into Gemini, and then there's going to be other planets in Gemini, we're going to be moving out of this like very Taurean and Martian, to a certain degree, Martian energy, because we're still going to have some other planets in those houses. But the personal planets are going to be moving out of those. And the energy for solid foundations isn't going to be as strong. So, really utilizing the first part of this month and this new moon to ask yourself, what seed do I want to plant in my second house? And how will I work hard to make this happen, because it's being sextile by Saturn? Maybe as you're making your intentions, you can list 1 or 2 actions that you can do to get you started to move towards that new goal of yours, that new action you want to take, that new plan that you have. And this kind of feels supported by Jupiter and Uranus that are still in conjunction in Taurus in that house as well. And because, once Jupiter moves into Gemini, into your third house, there's going to be an expansive quality. There's going to be a lot of thoughts, a lot of talking, a lot of short term, or like short commutes here and there. And there's going to be generally more busyness in your life. So take advantage of this grounded energy that we have. Mercury and Chiron obviously are in your sign, and they're coming together again. And then Mars is going to hit Chiron. So I talked about this in the first video a little bit about the meanings of that. And I think that it's really important for you as an Aries sun and rising because it's happening in your sign to know about that. So go ahead and listen to that part of the video in my part 1 if you want a little bit more understanding on how that's going to affect you. But I really think everything I mentioned is really a bigger part of your the bigger story that is trying to be created during this time. And oh yes, I do want to do a tarot card reading. I should have done this in the beginning, but I didn't. So let's pull an advice card for you guys and see what advice we can give to Aries sun and Aries rising during this new moon in Taurus. Okay, so interesting. I didn't realize that I don't normally do reverse cards. So I'm wondering if I should keep this reversed for you because it came up reversed, and I'm gonna trust that this is meant to come up reversed for you. The Knight of Wands reversed. The Knight of Wands is about taking action. It's about going towards what you want to do. Now, when it's reversed, it feels like it's not. This reminds me of another video I did for you guys. I think it was, I don't remember, it was one of the other videos I did, that it felt like you guys have had a lot of like false starts lately. I mean, the solar eclipse in your sign, there's just a lot happening in your sign right now. And yet it feels like there's a lot of false starts. Like you're wanting to this brand new energy and it's not quite like taking off in the way that you're wanting it to. And what this tells me is that maybe waiting until this new moon to really take action. I don't know. Okay, this is all coming back from the Mars Neptune that's also in your 12th house. What I'm feeling is because when I see this reversed, it points to a lot of like the negative aspects of this card, which can be like recklessness, acting too impulsively, which is Aries. I love you guys, but that can be a negative aspect of the sign of Aries, right? Is being too impulsive, moving forward without a plan. And so, what I ask of you during this new moon, and what this card asks of you, is to really utilize that Saturnian energy, this grounded energy, to make sure that whatever new start you're wanting to do in for this new moon, this new seed that you're wanting to plant, that it is really based in reality and that you're not being overly impulsive about it. Because something I love about your energy is that it is fresh. It is the first sign in our zodiac circle. So there's this freshness, new beginning, and like a full type of energy in tarot. And yet sometimes it can be like, well, maybe a little bit more planning could have helped out that situation. So I think that's what this card is just saying is, hey, like whatever you're doing, make sure that there's a little bit of forethought and it's not too reckless. You're not being arrogant. Oh, yes, arrogant. Mercury is conjuncting Chiron, and then Mars will conjunct Chiron in your sign. You know, we've been learning a lot about our communication skills, and Mercury and Aries can tend to be very direct. It can be kind of harsh or brash at times. And so this is something that we've all been kind of going through, but especially you as Aries sun, moon, rising, you've been having to kind of really heal this aspect of yourself. And when Mars hits Chiron, it's going to come up again later this month. Um, Oh, and sorry, so many things are just coming into my head now. During this full moon or during this new moon, you will have Mars in Aries in your sign. So this is giving you guys a lot of energy. And so earlier I was talking about false starts, and I think it's more about the fact that maybe you guys are having all this energy, and it's really more about just making sure that you are using your energy in an efficient and productive way, and remembering to ground it all in reality, and how can we take the steps to make this a real thing and not being impulsive. That's what I think it is. And watching your speech around other people and making sure that it's not coming across overly brash or arrogant or prideful or anything like that. I think that's all I have for you guys. Okay, all right, I will see you guys next time. Good luck. All right, Taurus, sun, and rising. This conjunction, or this new moon, is happening in your first house of Taurus, and it's going to be sextiled by Saturn, that is currently sitting in your 11th house. So I want to pull a card, and this is really an advice card for you guys, but it will help me understand your energy, Taurus, for the new moon in Taurus. You guys have just had so many things happening in your chart lately, in your sign. Interesting. Okay, I got the moon. All right, we'll keep that in mind. So, first, I want to talk about something that's interesting. So, if you think back to January 2022 until July 2023, there was a lot of energy in your sign. You had North Node in that sign. There was a lot of emphasis and focus on your identity, how you're showing up in the world. It was about you, right? You were in the spotlight in terms of maybe you were changing the way you move through the world. You were changing the way that you look. There was just an overall different sense of direction, outlook, attitude in life. And you learned a lot probably about yourself during that time because it was happening in your first house. And it was probably a really expansive time for you. But what can also happen when we have North Node in our sign is there can be like an obsessive quality. And with that expansion that it brings, it can bring a lot of complexity and complications. So when Jupiter moved into Taurus in May of 2023, from around then or July of 2023, somewhere in between that time frame, Jupiter was, and since then until now, Jupiter has been refining this part of your chart to almost like simplify and streamline all of the things that you learned from having North Node in the first house, because the Jupiter Uranus conjunction that happened and is still within orb during this new moon is really trying to start this new cycle for you in your first house of everything I just mentioned. But there can't be new without if there's no space, right? And so what North Node does is it like fills up all of the space. And Jupiter is an expansive planet as well, but it's also in Taurus. And so it's really saying, okay, yes, we learned so much. We love it. Now, what of that are we keeping? Are we moving forward with? Because we can't have all of this and have space for Jupiter Uranus to bring something new to us. So that's really what I feel like the last year or 10 months has been about in this in your first house. And now we have this new moon that's allowing you an opportunity to really get use of this energy in your sign. And because it's sextile by Saturn, there's this opportunity to really create this stable foundation of how you want to move forward. Because Jupiter is going to be now moving into Gemini on May 25th. And Jupiter in Gemini is it's still in detriment, but it's a much different energy than Jupiter in Taurus. It's not very grounded. It can be positive in a lot of ways of like every transit, and then there's also negative sides to it, right? So, but what it isn't is super grounded, and it's going into your second house of your income, finances. I'm going to do a video on this so we can go more deeply into this, but it's almost like, hey, let's tie up these loose ends and create these foundations that are going to allow you to make the best of having Jupiter in your second house, which, like I said, I'll explain more about later. But I really want you to reflect about what I said about those timelines of North Node and Jupiter and Taurus, and what this Jupiter and Taurus transit has really been asking of you, and looking and seeing like what parts of your first house, the things that you've learned, have you chosen to keep and move forward with. And because Saturn's sitting in your 11th house, this has something to do with groups that you're a part of, organizations you're a part of, your hopes and dreams for the future, your friends, and any clubs that you're a part of. So that's kind of where I would be heading with this. And interestingly, for you guys, for your advice card, I got the moon, which is a very like emotional card, but it's also quite Neptunian. And what I would say is it feels like, okay, it feels like, whew, I just got chills. I'm sorry. Okay. it feels like the energy just changed. That was so crazy. It feels like there's a surrender that needs to happen right now. There's something's not going your way, something's not happening the way you thought it would. You're having some difficulty in some aspect of your life. Maybe it's your 11th house stuff that I just mentioned. Um, it could be your 7th house stuff. We had a Scorpio full moon that was really powerful recently. It could be your first house stuff, but I don't know, like about like where you're going and yeah, hmm. I wonder if this has anything to do with Mercury conjunct Chiron in your 12th house. Because Chiron in the 12th house and then Mercury joining it now for the third time, there's been a story that's been happening since March 20th. I talked about it in my first video a little bit more. March 20th, April 15th, and now May 7th, Mercury conjunct Chiron, retrograde, direct. And this is in your subconscious, self limiting beliefs. And so maybe something's coming up for you and has been coming up for you that you can't ignore. And the 12th house is the house of endings, it's a house of closure, of surrender, of healing. So maybe there's something that you guys are having to surrender to right now. And it could be something small, it could be something big. But what this new moon is saying is like, whatever that difficulty is, just give it time because the moon says that there's something that's not clear yet. You don't have all the information yet. We are technically still during this time when this new moon's happening. Mercury is still in shadow and in your 12th house. So plant the new seed because I really do think that um, this new moon is really great for that. Try to utilize some of that Saturnian energy to, because here's the thing, we're always just doing the best that we can, right? Like we're never going to have all the information all the time to make the decisions we want to make. And you may just be this, honestly, if you're not feeling connected to anything I just said, this could be that you're just feeling extra emotional right now. You're feeling very intuitive right now, you know? And so if that is you, then I would pull upon that as well to plant the new seeds in for this new moon in your sign. This is just, this can be, like I said, positives and negatives into that, but I I'm glad that I pulled this card for you because I didn't realize how much of an emotional process uh emotional, spiritual, subconscious kind of process you're going through right now. And lean into that. There's something there for you in that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. All right, good luck, Taurus. All right, Gemini sun and rising. So this new moon is happening in your 12th house. We've been talking about the 12th house a lot. And there's a sextile from Saturn in your 10th house. So before we really get started, I want to pull number one, an advice card. We'll talk about this probably towards the end, but it always gives me some sort of information as well. Gemini for this new moon in Taurus. Ooh, I love that. Okay. All right. So first I want to talk about something that kind of weaves into the story, in my opinion. In January of 2022 to July of 2023, you had North Node in Gemini, or I'm sorry, in Taurus in your 12th house. And during that time, there was a lot of focus on 12th house things. So that could be working in institutions that serve needy people. So like prisons, hospitals, mental institutions. And this is also the house of hidden things. So your subconscious, your self-limiting beliefs, your why am I having such a hard time was thinking about 12th house things. Your self-limiting beliefs, your dreams, your it could have even been like overseas travel. There was a lot of like intense energy in that area of your life. Like it's a very solitude house. There's a lot of healing that happens there, closure, ending of cycles. There we go. The brain's turning on. And so there was a lot of intense energy there. And you may have actually during that time been really drawn to spiritual things. And then Jupiter moved into Taurus in May of 2023. So sometime between May and July of 2023 until now, Jupiter's actually been asking you to simplify, streamline, declutter, and understand what of those things that you learned from North Node in the 12th house that you want to move forward with, because especially for Geminis, Jupiter's moving into your sign. So this is like, hey, we are really tying up loose ends in this 12th house, in the house of our subconscious limiting beliefs and things that have been holding us back. And because we really need to streamline all of this and take these new beliefs that we have, this new spirituality that we've gained, the healing that we've gained, the closures, what's staying, what's going, because Jupiter is going to move into your sign and expand you. So you want to have already consolidated all of that before you move into the state of expansion, right? So you can be the best possible Gemini when Jupiter moves into Gemini to expand. And what's interesting for you is, the 12th house stuff can be hard for Geminis and Gemini risings, because we tend to like to be out in the world, right? I'm a Gemini sun. Hi. And people don't believe me when I say this, but I am an introvert. And I love my time alone, and I really need that rest to recuperate. But even still, most Geminis, we need a certain degree of like being out in the world. So having a ton of 12th house transits, unless you have a lot of 12th house placements like I do, isn't like our favorite thing. We tend to like to be out in the world a little bit more. But this has been saying, hey, we need to tend to some of these deeper things in your subconscious, because Jupiter, in conjunction with Uranus in this house, number one, wants to build something for you that is so powerful in that house. So like a career in spirituality, or working in a mental institution, hospital, prison, or working with dreams, doing hypnotherapy, um, doing anything that has to do with healing. Jupiter Uranus wants something so like these breakthroughs that just completely can change the arc of your life, because the 12th house ruling the subconscious means it can be like really about anything in your life. So it wants all this for you. And so that's why it's been asking you to streamline stuff, so that during this new moon, you can plant a seed, planting a seed in your 12th house that encompasses all of the work that you've done since January 2022, and then the streamlining that you've done since May or July of 2023 in that part of your life. What are we taking forward? What do we want Jupiter Uranus conjunction in that house to really push us forward with this? And the thing is the prize of all of this, in my opinion, is in your 10th house, because there's a sextile to this new moon with Saturn in your 10th. So I could see something like, it could be that you're so sick and tired of your career or your public image and reputation that you're walking away from it, because the 12th house rules the ending of cycles. And because Saturn in your 10th is wanting to support this, and it's wanting to stabilize any seeds that you're planting during this time. So I really feel like there's something to do with healing and career, public image. They're so, to me, more so than like the other signs. I feel like the Saturn and this like Saturn and Pisces and all the Taurus stuff that's happening for you is very much about your career and public life. And the aha that you're going to have, I did a video on Jupiter Uranus conjunction. I'll link that below. Definitely watch that, because I talk more about what I think that aha moment could be about for you and the breakthroughs that you could have. But really, all of it is supporting this 10th house stuff for you. And it's supporting the fact that Jupiter is going to go in your sign, and there's going to be increased optimism, increased opportunities, increased energy on you. Oh, yes, I don't want to forget about this. The advice card I pulled for you is the King of Cups. And the King of Cups, I mean, I love this energy, and it's like because we're talking about all this 12th house stuff, which is a watery sign, and King of Cups, the cups is emotions. It feels like there's an emotional maturity that's coming through for you guys. And you know, us Geminis, we love to have fun. We are like, I love Gemini. I love the sign of Gemini. I didn't always used to, but I absolutely love it. There's such a childlike energy to us. And I really believe that all this 12th house stuff has made us more emotionally mature and deeper. And what this new moon is asking of you is to pull on that emotional maturity that we've gained during these somewhat turbulent emotional times. It's not emotion like raw emotion, it's like your psyche has been going through a lot of changes, and through that, you've gained this level of wisdom, and emotional maturity is just what keeps coming up for me. And I want you to tap into that emotional maturity when planting the seed for the new moon in Taurus and going forward, because I think that this is such a big gift for Geminis. Like I said, I think it's really increasing the depth and yeah, really increasing the depth of all Gemini suns, rising, maybe even moons, if you resonate with that. And keep going with that is what I would say. And I think that's all I have for Gemini. Yeah, good luck with this new moon. And let me know if any of this resonates down below. I love to hear from my Geminis. So, all right. So Cancer sun and Cancer rising. This new moon is happening in your 11th house, and there's a sextile from Saturn in your ninth house. So I want to briefly do, well, before we do that, let's get pull a tarot card for your advice for Cancer, Sun, and Rising for the new moon in Taurus. What advice do they need? Okay, interesting. Okay, so let's talk some history. In January of 2022 to July of 2023, the North Node was in Taurus in your 11th house. So during that time, there could have been an increase of desires and energy being put into your 11th house. Organizations you belong to, your future hopes and dreams, your friends group, any clubs or associations that you're a part of, any kind of organization where you felt like you were belonging in, that was really important for you, and it could have created a lot. You could have met new friends, and then that was great. But also, with more and more things coming into our plates, it can create more complexity and complications. And so Jupiter has been in your 11th house since May of 2023. So since then, or about July until now, there's been this feeling of Jupiter asking you to simplify, streamline, declutter, and consolidate your friends groups, the organizations that you're in. Which of those are actually going to support your hopes and dreams? Which do you want to take forward with you? And Jupiter Uranus conjunction, I made a video about that. Check it out. I'll have it linked down below because that kind of is going to give you more details about what this energy is wanting to give you. But it's still with an orb during this new moon. So this new moon is a time for you to plant a seed. Okay, we streamlined and redefined and consolidated the 11th house stuff. Now we're starting a new cycle in that area of our chart. And the 11th house can also be like financial gains too from your long-term goals that you made in the 10th house and for future hopes and wishes. But it's really like a really hopeful house, right? So what do we want to plant a seed in that chart, in that area of our chart? Okay, sorry about that. My cat and my dog were not having a good time with each other. So yeah, what seed, what are you wanting to plant in that 11th house regarding the organization you belong to, the hopes and dreams for the future? This could even be financial stuff that can happen because this is, in some traditions, a money house. So, but really to me, I think of it as like your hopes and dreams for the future and just bringing more hope into your life. It's like the star in tarot. And I also want to say that, like, in the last video I made, there was a huge block that I felt in your guys' energy, and actually I had a lot of cancers saying that they were going through a difficult time in the comments. And I just want to say that I'm sorry to any cancers that are going through a difficult time right now. And this new moon is really trying to give you this like beautiful chance to optimize your own desires and kind of what you want in this area of your life. And what's interesting for you guys too, and this I kind of got this in your previous reading that I did, is that you've got Mercury and Chiron coming together for the third time in your 10th house. And you've got this, now you've got Mars actually, by the time this new moon happens, you've got Mars in your 10th house as well. So you've got Mars, you got Mercury, Chiron, and you also have North Node. So there is just so much energy that is trying to push you in this new public direction. Your public life is changing, your career is changing, your long-term goals are changing. And with that comes the 11th house stuff, which is like what comes with those goals, the people who are going to support you and the organizations that are going to support you in getting there. And that's really what is being asked of you right now, is like, maybe not all of the friends groups are moving with you. Who do you now want in your inner circle, right? Who do you now want to be in your friends groups, in organizations you belong to help you get to where you need to go? And the advice card that I got for you guys is the Five of Swords. And when I see the Five of Swords, it makes me feel a few things. Number one, it makes me feel like you're feeling very protective right now of your own energy. Um, Maybe this is because you've had some recent conflict. And in that recent conflict, you've been feeling like that you lost. And because these two swords are on the ground and you've picked up three of them, but the two swords are still there, if you can see this. And to me, that says that you feel like there's a sense of loss. Maybe within friendships, there's been different disagreements and conflict. And even though you feel like you acted correctly, maybe you still have some sadness and disappointment over what happened. That's completely normal, Cancers. That's absolutely normal. We go through these changes in our lives, and I think my advice for this is like, if you feel like you are completely in the right and you don't want to move forward with those friendships, with those organizations, or whoever you had this conflict with, by all means, do you. You know, like, you know better than anybody else. You know better than astrology. You know better than my tarot cards. Um, but if you feel like, or feel inclined to say, hey, maybe this battle wasn't worth the war, that can be the energy sometimes here. So this card isn't like the, okay, hold on, coming together. The swords rule our mental plane. Okay, so these are thoughts that are going on in your head. Now that doesn't mean they're not real, right? They're very real. However, when it comes to thoughts, we have a lot of power, right? We have the power to direct them into certain things. So that's why I said, like, sit with these feelings. Like, if you've had a lot of conflicts, disagreements, you've given up friendships. Wow, this actually ties in like really perfectly to what we were talking about, how you've been like streamlining and simplifying your friendship groups. But maybe in that there have been a handful, or maybe one disagreement or one conflict that you had that just does not, there's this like bad blood and you're not feeling good with it. You don't feel like even if you don't want to be friends with that person ever again, you're not happy about how it turned out and how things happened the way that they did. Even if you felt like you won from that argument or you won that fight with them, you get a chance to change that. And during this new moon, this could be a beautiful time because, like I said, the moon is in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, which is all about harmony and beauty and relationships. And this would be a nice time to bring some of that energy into that conflict if you want to. And if not, you can give that energy to yourself to feel better about the conflict that happened and give yourself that love and that nurturing that Taurus can provide so that you can move forward and plant these new seeds on this new moon in Taurus and start this beautiful new 14-year cycle that Jupiter and Uranus wants to give you. I think that's it for Cancer. All right, good luck with this new moon. All right, so for Leo Sun and Leo Rising, this new moon is happening in your 10th house. It's being sextiled by Saturn in your 8th house. So before we go any further, I want to talk a little history. From January 2022 to July 2023, you had North Node in this house. And when North Node is in this house, it's really putting a lot of energy towards this. And that doesn't mean that a lot's getting done. It just means that maybe you were trying like multiple careers, or you were saying like, if you don't have a career, you were trying out multiple different reputations and like, oh, maybe I can be seen as this, or maybe I can be seen as that, or this is the kind of public image I want to have. It's your public life. So in some ways there was a lot of energy and desires happening in that part of your life, and maybe you were trying to follow all of them. And then Jupiter moved into this house in May of 2023. So either from then or since somewhere between May and July of 2023, Jupiter's been saying like, hey, let's refine, because it's in Taurus, let's refine, simplify, and really consolidate what do we want to move forward with in our 10th house, because we can't take all of this all on and actually make something of it. This is too much. We've got too much on our plates right now. And so in our 10th house, it's like, what do we really want to be in the world? What do we want to do in the world? What kind of legacy do we want to leave? And so there's been this like decluttering in that house almost. And then Jupiter Uranus conjunction just happened, and it's still within orb during this new moon that on May 7th that we're having. So this is a really beautiful time for us. I'm a Leo rising, so I say us, to plant a seed, because Jupiter Uranus already wants a gift for us, right? Like it's starting this new 14-year cycle, but we have free will, right? So what do you want this to look like? After all of this craziness, intensification, and like wanting all these different things, and then refining that and consolidating it, what kind of conclusions have you come to? And what is it that you really want to work on during this new moon cycle? And really that you want to ask Jupiter and Uranus to help you with. I in part one, I kind of gave examples about what that could look like. And also I have a Jupiter Uranus conjunction video. It's even if you just listen to the sign by sign, it's only a few minutes, and it does really give a lot of information about what this transit wants for you. So I'll link that below if you want to listen. But we have, and are going to continue to have during May, a lot of planets in our 10th house. And this is just putting us out in the public eye. And even if you're not out in the public a lot, this could look like a lot of people are talking about you, because you're just kind of like very visible. Your energy is very visible in some way, energetically. And so what do you want that to look like when they do talk about you? I mean, obviously to a certain degree, you can't really control that, but you get a say, right? And Saturn wants you to really get serious about this. What are a handful of steps, 1, 2, or 3 steps that you can take towards materializing this seed that you want to plant on this new moon? Because new moons are all about planting seeds, taking new actions, right? And this is interesting because Jupiter is going into the 11th house at the end of this month, and that's nice because it sextiles your Leo sun, rising, or moon. And when Jupiter goes into Gemini, this stabilizing factor is really not quite there as much. Obviously, we'll still have other planets in earth signs and water signs. Well, water signs aren't really stable, but when Jupiter goes in Gemini, it's like this like really light, airy energy. And so if we can create a solid foundation during this new moon cycle, then we will be able to take flight metaphorically or literally with Jupiter in Gemini and feel much better about it. Because Jupiter is going to be expanding your organizations that you belong to, the clubs you belong to. Oh, I didn't do a tarot card reading for you guys yet. The organizations you belong to, I'm going to take this because I saw it and I just feel like I need to. The friends that you have, the people who are going with you, right, on this new journey that you have in your 10th house, who's going to help you get there? Who do you want to take with you? What allies, what organizations, what are your hopes and dreams? And do those people support them in the long run? So that's kind of a forecast in the future. I'm going to be doing a video on Jupiter and Gemini. So I'll go deeper into that. And then for now, just really focusing what I said on building a solid foundation regarding what you want your 10th house, your legacy to look like. After all the hard work that you've done in this area of your chart. Now I want to pull an advice card. That's a beautiful card. That's the bottom of the, I already pulled one because it was the bottom of the deck. And I don't know, sometimes when I see them, I'm like, that's a card for you. Okay, so what advice can we give Leo Sun and Leo Rising and Moon maybe for this new moon? Oh, why is this so difficult right now? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. I am so excited. It's always great when I get a card with a lion for Leos on there. Okay, so this is the World card. This to me, I just want to say, this is the tarot once again saying, hey, you've accomplished so much. And this is the last major arcana. Sit back. You are starting a brand new cycle. You are starting a brand new cycle. And before we get started, revel in the fact that you've done so much work. One thing about Leo rising especially, but I think it goes for Leo sun too, but I really feel it's Leo rising, is that people don't realize how much work we do in order to make things look easy and in order for us to become successful. We go through a lot. We make it look easy. It's not easy. So really just allow yourself to bask in the idea that you have accomplished so much and you are starting a brand new cycle, and look back and see all the things that you've created and be so, so, so grateful for yourself for making this happen. Really. Okay. Now, the advice card that I get though is the Three of Wands. Like, you are getting ready to start a brand new journey. And you know, this Two of Wands is like planning and thinking, but by the Three of Wands, he's getting ready to go. You are ready to start this new journey, and this is a fire. This is Wand, so it's a fire element, which is your element, and this is about taking action. And I am just so excited. You guys, I am so over myself and technology. I'm in the process of moving right now, so I've just been there's been so much going on, and anyway, my battery died. So all I wanted to say was that I'm so excited. That's it. I'm so excited for you guys. This is awesome, and I cannot wait to hear my Leo risings and what you guys have to say about all of this. And good luck with this new moon in Taurus. I'll see you guys next time. All right, so Virgo sun and rising. This new moon is happening in your 9th house, and there's a sextile from Saturn in your 7th house. So before we get started, I want to talk about some history here. When in January 2022 until July 2023, you had North Node in your 9th house. During this time, there was a lot of emphasis and energy on your 9th house, learning new belief systems, higher education, getting increasing your faith or spirituality, maybe getting spiritual mentors, long distance travel, really just experiencing a new sort of exposing yourself to new cultures in some way, whether that's in the mind or through travel, through long distance travel. And what North Node can do is bring a lot of energy to that part of our house. And it's really cool because we learn a lot and there's a lot of expansion and increase our desire, especially in Taurus, in that part of our life. And then also what can happen is that we have too much stuff, right? And so then Jupiter moved in May of 2023. So between May of 2023 to July of 2023 until now, Jupiter has been wanting you to simplify, consolidate, declutter in that ninth house, all those things that you learned. What is actually of value to you? What kind of beliefs, where are you traveling that you've learned all these things? What kind of education have you gotten? All those things, what of those all of them that you learned is actually going to stick, is actually going to help you move forward? Because we had that Jupiter Uranus conjunction on April 20th, but it's still active in your ninth house when this new moon happens. So this new moon is giving you an opportunity to plant a seed, to start something new that you want Jupiter Uranus's conjunction to kind of usher into your life over these next 14 years. But really, because this is a new moon cycle, it can manifest and materialize soon. But the secret is that you've got to utilize Saturn sextiling this from your seventh house. So what can your relationships teach you about what belief systems and this new seed that you want to plant in your ninth house? It has something to do with your relationships as well. So pondering about that, because Saturn's wanting you to do a lot of work around how you relate to other people. Either that could be with your partner, your romantic partner, or it could be in regards to your business partnership, or in just whoever you deal with one-on-one and how you relate to them, because the seventh house always looks back to you. Now Mercury's gone direct and it's conjuncting Chiron on the same day. So Chiron is in your eighth house. So once again, this is about other people, joint ventures. There's a lot of healing around this, healing any kind of impulsivity in that part of your chart, in about intimacy, shared finances, investments, loans. That's just kind of an afterthought in my opinion. But more importantly, I want to talk about all that Taurus stuff because Jupiter is going to move into your 10th house. Okay. Jupiter is going to be moving into your 10th house at the end of May. And so it's wanting to expand your public life, your career, the legacy you're leaving behind. It wants to generate new ideas in that part of your life and expand it. And what Jupiter is asking of you with all this energy in your ninth house, and especially like since January 2022, really, it's saying in order for Jupiter to give you this new, fresh outlook on your career, legacy, public life, reputation, we're really trying to solidify your beliefs, your personal belief systems, things that really shape your faith and your spirituality in this world, because that's going to help you be able to create the public life that you're wanting. And when Jupiter moves into Gemini, and we have all these other planets in Gemini, this stabilizing energy that's around during this new moon in Taurus isn't going to be as prominent. So take this opportunity, seize this opportunity to really stabilize and bring all of those ninth house things that you've learned down to earth and figure out what is actually of value to you, what is actually going to help you. This is good. What's actually going to help you in your career and in your relationships, your one-on-one relationships, out of those beliefs that you've learned. How has that evolved your relationships? And we'll see how it evolves in your career. I have a video on the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that goes more into depth about this and the signification of Jupiter in your chart. So I'll link that below. Definitely watch that if you haven't. And I'll also be doing a Jupiter and Gemini video for all the signs. Let me know if you want me to do tarot in that as well. I'm thinking of doing it, but we'll see. We'll see. But I'll talk more about that and the significators of Jupiter in your sign. And yeah, we'll revisit this, but I really want you to think about kind of what you want to materialize in that ninth house. Do you want to be doing more long distance travel? What kind of belief systems do you want to keep in your life? What kind of higher education do you want to keep in your life? What kind of faith or spiritualities? All these things. And yeah, I think that's it. So let's pull an advice card for my Virgo sun and Virgo risings. And also, please let me know how this resonates or doesn't resonate in the comments down below. I love to hear from you guys. So Virgo, what's some advice for this Taurus new moon for you guys? Ew, I love this. Okay, I'm loving this energy for you. This is the Six of Cups. Okay, so the Six of Cups is the cups have to do with emotions. And the Six of Cups can be, if we want to talk about on a mundane level, it could be revisiting your place of birth in this upcoming 6 months. Because when we have a new moon, it's a new 6 month cycle that ends with a full moon in Taurus that's happening in November of this year. But, maybe going back to your place of birth or where you grew up is something that could be really healing for you right now. Now, the other thing about the six is that, it reminds me of how this new moon is happening in Taurus, which is a place that the moon loves being. And Taurus is ruled by Venus, and there's harmony, and it's about relationships and beauty. And this is a card about being generous with others. And because it's a cups card, to me, like I said, there's something to be said about going back to places that have a lot of childhood memories for you that could be really healing at this time, and also incorporating that kind of energy into your life, that childlike energy, into that joy that we had as children that we tend to lose as we get older. And what's interesting is, like, I love Virgos. I'm surrounded by Virgos. A lot of my best friends are Virgo suns. But what, sometimes there is like this because it's an earth sign, right? So it's, even though it's ruled by Mercury, which can give it a little bit more lightness, it is still, they tend to sometimes get very serious about things. And this is like, hey, have fun, lighten up. And also, I keep wanting to get to this point and not getting there. This is a card of generosity. And because it's in cups, to me, it feels like emotional generosity. And how can you be emotionally generous with other people around you? Maybe this is one of the beliefs that you have gained during all this energy over the last 2 years in Taurus in your ninth house, is like to be more giving of yourself and to others. This can also be like being charitable. So there's a time for us to get money and there's a time for us to give money. And these are cycles that we go through. And what this is telling for me is this is a time for you to give of yourself. That can be money, that can be however you feel like you can give of yourself. This is a charitable time and you will be rewarded for this. Because when Jupiter moves into your 10th house, all eyes on Virgo, especially if you're a Virgo rising. And so all of this, like, how are you going to look when you're on stage, when people can all see you? How are you going to look? This is beautiful energy for you guys. And I really hope that you can utilize this energy during this new moon cycle. So please let me know how that resonates, and good luck to all my Virgo sun and Virgo risings. All right, so for Libra sun and Libra rising, this new moon is happening in your 8th house. There's a sextile by Saturn in your 6th house. So before we get started talking about all of that, I want to talk about first let's pull an advice card for you for this new moon, Libra sun and Libra rising. Libra sun and rising, what's some advice for this new moon? Let's see what the tarot has to say for you guys. Interesting. Another sign got this as well. So cool. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I just looked at my notes and then looked at this. Like, what? Are you kidding me right now? I love this stuff. I have so many planets in my 12th house. And so when you have 12th house planets, it's like you cannot believe in coincidences. You just can't. You always just feel guided by something higher. So, anyways, about you guys. So this new moon's happening in your 8th house, Saturn's in your 6th. Now, I want to talk a little bit history here. In January of 2022, North Node was in your 8th house of Taurus. And during that time, um, there was an expansion, an increase, more desires in terms of your 8th house. So maybe you started investing. Maybe you and your partner started a joint venture, your business partner or your romantic partner. Maybe you took on or cleared out some extra debt. Maybe you had it. You were really, even if things didn't materialize, which they probably did because it was in Taurus, but there was just a lot of energy for you on how can I increase my investments? How can I increase this? Maybe during that time frame when you have 8th house, you can get like a lump sum of money through something. It could be through lawsuits or investments or inheritances or something. So there's a lot of focus and energy on that. And then what happened was Jupiter came into Taurus in May of 2023. So sometime between May and July of 2023, Jupiter and Taurus, even though Jupiter is about expansion, it's also a very refined planet. So it was saying, hey, we were putting so much energy into this house, into our 8th house. Let's think about what are we actually moving forward with? Because we can't keep all of this, right? So we got to figure out like what's important to us and what are we cutting out? Because come April, Jupiter and Uranus wanted to give you this new gift, and without space for the new, transformation can't happen, new things can't come. So if you're overloaded with things in that 8th house, it's more difficult for you to gain something new from this Jupiter Uranus conjunction. So you've been streamlining, consolidating, decluttering, simplifying all those things that you were doing in regard to the 8th house. And now with this new moon, I also want to say the 8th house is about how you value other people as well. So that could have been, and this is like an area of karmic debt or actual debt. So an intimacy, like very deep intimacy. So these things have been really big on your plate right now. Maybe your partner's been bringing them to you, or maybe it's just from your own self and other people in your life who were asking you to be more intimate, to be more joined in values with them. And so now this new moon in Taurus is a beautiful time for you to plant the seeds that you would like in this area of your chart. And what you would like Jupiter Uranus conjunction to bring you, I have a video about Jupiter Uranus conjunction. I'll link it below because it does talk about kind of what that 14-year cycle signifies for you, and it can give you some information so that when this new moon in Taurus is happening, you have more information to plant that new seed that you want to fertilize and grow in the coming weeks, months, and this 14-year cycle, right? Because once Jupiter moves into Gemini at the end of the month, we're going to lose some of the stabilizing factors here, right? It's going to become more airy, and you're a fellow air sign, so you're going to like that. But it's not as grounded. It's not as stabilizing. And this new moon is being sextiled by Saturn in your 6th house. So whatever this new seed that you're planting is in the 8th house, you will be willing to work hard for it, because Saturn in the 6th makes you work hard. It just does. Those are both, it's a hardworking house and a hardworking planet coming together. So during this new moon, if you are planting a new seed, think about how you're willing to actually take steps to make that a reality in your life, right? Not just asking Jupiter Uranus to just hand it to you, which it may, but Saturn is saying, okay, but how are you going to contribute to this? How are you going to bring this into fulfillment? And Then you're gonna have Jupiter go into your ninth house, and this is long distance travel, higher education, new belief systems, spiritual mentors, and it's such a much more like lighthearted house than the eighth house that you've been dealing with for such a long time. So before we get there, let's take this last hurrah of stabilization and groundedness to build, to have something to build upon when Jupiter moves into that ninth house of yours. And also with Saturn in the sixth, like don't overwork yourself. Allow yourself to still have fun while this Saturn is in your sixth house. It can really lead to overworking. I have a natal Saturn in the sixth house, so I get it. Well, in Placidus, I do. So I think that's it. Oh, this is, yes. So the advice card I pulled for you is Ace of Pentacles. Money, like something is happening with money with you guys. I talked about this in my Jupiter Uranus conjunction. Like some investment is paying off. You're getting money that you're not earning. So it could be through your partner, it could be through an investment, it could be through an inheritance. When I see this, I generally, honestly, I've seen a huge pattern when I see this card of an actual literal job offer or job opportunity. But this card is also about manifestation of abundance. And while it is a pentacle, so it has to do with money and physical abundance, like material resources, it can also be talking about inner abundance. And if you watch the first part of this video that I made about this new moon, I talk about that and about the Sabian symbol and how it relates to this Libras. Go watch that, especially the Sabian symbol part that I did. I'm going to have that video linked below as well, because that is what this new moon, especially for you, is asking. That Sabian symbol that we talked about, this inner abundance. You have the ability. This is, all aces are new beginnings. And so this may be something that it could, like I said, materialize right away, or it could be like the beginning of a new career opportunity, a new way to make money, a new way to manifest, to bring more abundance into your life. Yeah, I think that's it. This is so, yeah, lots of material stuff. I don't know. This is great, Libras. I'm really excited for you. So let me know down in the comments how this resonates for you. Keep me updated. Let's see what happens after the new moon. Did any of this stuff happen? And yeah, I love hearing from you guys. So I'll see you next time. All right, so for my Scorpio sun and Scorpio rising, I've been really feeling and hearing that you guys have been going through it lately, especially within relationships and just in general, other people. So, your partnership, your business partnership, any friends that you deal with one on one, coworkers that you deal with one on one. And really, this is all about relating to other people. And I understand why this is like can be frustrating, because there's a longer story at play here. And I want to talk about that because it really started in January of 2022 when you guys had the North Node move into the seventh house of Taurus. From then until January 2022 until July 2023, the energy and the focus and the desires were about the other person, were about your partner if you had one. If you didn't have one, it was about finding the partners or the people that you were dating. There was a lot of energy on like your business partner, the other person that's sitting in front of you, is about them and not so much about you. And so then when Jupiter moved into Taurus in May of 2023, sometime between May and July of 2023, Jupiter was like, hey, because see, Jupiter is about expansion, but Taurus is about simplification and focusing on fewer things. So expanding our focus, but in fewer things, if that makes sense, rather than like when Jupiter moves into Gemini, and Gemini is about the plenty, right? It's about many. And oh, there's this idea and this idea. And Taurus is like, hey, like I want to invest my energy into like these one, two, or three things. I don't want to focus on all these. So on a very like basic level, this could look like if you were single during that North Node transit and you were just dating a handful of people, Jupiter coming in is saying, okay, let's focus on expanding the relationship with just one or two people. So it was like this refinement period, this decluttering, solidifying, consolidating period. And it's still in effect because Jupiter and Uranus came together on April 20th. I have a video about that. Please watch that to know how it affects you. I'll link it below. But Jupiter Uranus want to bring you something new, but they can't bring you something new in this house if it's, you know, you're dating 10 people, or you're focusing all of your energy on so many different aspects of your partner or your business or the other people that you work with, and you haven't really decluttered like what actually matters in that house. How do I relate to people? How do I want to relate to people? How are these relationships going? What do I like? What do I not like? Because if you are just there's this obsessive quality about the relationship, then how can Jupiter Uranus transform it or bring something new and innovative in that house for you? And so this new moon is a really beautiful time for you to set an intention that is being stabilized by Saturn in your fifth, and I'll talk about that in a second, in your house of relationships, because to create a strong foundation that you want to build upon once Jupiter moves into Gemini. And we've got a lot of stabilizing factors in the beginning of May. Like, take advantage of this time. What do you really want to create in your seventh house? I'm just reading my notes here. I got kind of carried away. I'm like, where am I? So Saturn's in your fifth house right now, and it's sextiling this new moon that's happening in your seventh house. So there's something new in your seventh house that can be supported by Saturn in your fifth. And Saturn in fifth is bringing like a serious tone when it comes to creative hobbies and romance and play. So it can be like, even like pleasure and entertainment can not be feeling as playful right now, because Saturn is bringing some limitations there in order for you to really figure out to mature in that area of your life of romance, love, entertainment, joy, play, you know, all that stuff. And so maybe there's something that you're trying to mature in that part of your life that could be stabilizing what's going on in your seventh house, if you want to see it that way for the new moon. Because what I'm saying is that sextiles, they don't slap you in the face. They just sit quietly, and you've got to kind of invite them in. And so you can invite Saturn to help you stabilize this from sitting in your fifth house and say, okay, how can Saturn in my fifth help me plant this new seed in my relationships? And what are one or two steps that I can take with this new moon that can help me take action on this new seed that I want to plant? Because Saturn rewards hard work. It rewards us actually taking steps towards something. So, yeah, because Jupiter is going to be moving into Gemini, which is your eighth house. And I'm going to be making a video about that. So, but your eighth house is like intimacy with somebody else. It's your financial and karmic debt. It's shared finances, investments, inheritances. So like we talk about how the seventh house is marriage and the eighth house is like what comes after marriage, right? Like the deep intimacy, the deep work, the shared finances, all this, the nitty gritty stuff that's going to happen. And that's your house, right? That is ruled by Scorpio. So when Jupiter moves in there, it's going to be wanting to expand on these things. So right now is a really great time to build a solid foundation for Jupiter to be able to expand, and for this Jupiter Uranus conjunction in the seventh house to bring something beautiful to you over these next 14 years. I want to get a tarot advice card for Scorpios during this new moon in Taurus. What is advice that we can give Scorpio, Sun, and Rising? Okay, so just interesting. We've got the Seven of Pentacles. Okay, this is a house of hard work. I'm sorry, this is a card of hard work. This is like you are putting in the work. This reminds me of having Saturn in your fifth house, and also just what I'm feeling about your relationships. It's like the 7 and 8 of Pentacles are like just putting in the work, putting one foot in front of another, because then when you get to like the 9 of Pentacles, it's like fulfillment and success, and then 10 is like ultimate fulfillment and success. But with the 7, we're still putting in the work, and there is a energy like, wow, I just felt this. It just feels so much about Saturn in your 5th house right now, that there is a lot of limitation and pressure and obligations in that house of joy, entertainment, romance, fun, play, that is making you feel like bogged down almost. What this card tells me to do is like keep chugging along, recognize that there is a long-term investment. And I know you guys are tired. Like, I know, because it's like North Node in the 7th house, and then Jupiter in the 7th house, and then Uranus has been in your 7th house. Like, there's just so much, there's just been so much chaos. And then even in May, like, you're gonna get a shakeup because you have a lot of planets moving through your 7th house, conjuncting Uranus still. So really, this new moon. Seriously, guys, just a great time, a stable time before Sun conjuncts Uranus and Venus conjuncts Uranus, for you to really just recognize that you're putting in, like, you're investing in something. You're investing in the 7th house, and maybe that means that you're having a difficulty in the 5th house or even in the 7th house. But if you can recognize that your effort will be rewarded, like maybe you're feeling concerned that all this work you're doing is not going to be rewarded, and it will. It won't, because all number one, with Saturn, you always get rewarded if you put in the work and you recognize that there's a long view game that you're playing. It's not about the short term, it's about the long term. And it may not come out the way that you always hoped it would, but it's going to come out in a way that is really beautiful for you guys. So this is an invitation, is to look at the bigger picture, celebrate all the work that you've done, recognize that there is disappointment, there could be concern, but it will pay off. So, and if it doesn't, then no, it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. Okay? All right. Good luck with the new moon, and let me know how this resonates down below for you guys. Okay, so Sagittarius, Sun and Rising. This new moon is happening in your 6th house, and there's a sextile by Saturn in your 4th house. So let's go back in time here and talk about some history. So North Node was in your 6th house from January 2022 until July 2023. So during that time, there was an increase in desire and energy input or output into this house of your 6th house. So that's your health, fitness, work environment, house. It's a house of like hard work. Like, it's not a super fun house of daily errands that you run, your fitness. Did I already say that? Health, like physical health, mental health. And so there was a lot of energy in that part of your chart. And you may have picked up new, like, fitness goals, or new diet that you want to try, and a new job, or maybe you took on a job that was like super intense and had you doing a lot of stuff, or you had a lot of day-to-day errands that you had to run. There was just a lot of energy here. And when Jupiter moved into this house in May of 2023, somewhere between then and July of 2023, there's been like a consolidation or simplification. So if you were it's a very interesting note I put there. This could be this because Jupiter is expansion, but when it's in Taurus, it's about expanding on the right things and about less things. So if there was too much going on in that part of your life, there was too much hard work, there was too much seriousness, there was too much focus on fitness, health, diet, your job, Jupiter wanted to consolidate, wants to simplify, wants to declutter that house. So if it was a job that wasn't right for you, it could go away. And what it's promising, though, is that Jupiter and Uranus came into this house together on April 20th. That's why I wanted to go through this decluttering process, because it was like, hey, we want to give you something new in this house. And we can't do that if you're in the wrong environments. It's like really, the sixth house is like work environments. So if you're not in healthy work environments, if you're not doing healthy daily routines, if you don't have healthy diets, then we can't give you something new if you're focusing on that. So we want to simplify. And I made a Jupiter Uranus conjunction video. Check that out for more information about what that means, what that could mean for you for this 14-year cycle. But this new moon is happening while that Jupiter Uranus conjunction is still within orb. So you're getting a chance to plant your own seed. What do you want to create in this part of your life? What kind of job environment do you want? What kind of health and fitness and daily life environment do you want to create? And it's being sextile by Saturn in your fourth house. So, maybe because you've been doing the inner work that Saturn is trying to help you do in the fourth house, which can be like deep emotional work. It can feel like a damper on your emotional fulfillment in a lot of situations, or it could even just be a damper on where you live. Like there can be restriction in the home. You can feel restricted in the home. The home is not feeling fulfilling to you anymore. Or it could be like, the fourth house is also your own inner private sanctuary. It's your own private emotional foundations. So Saturn's been asking you to do some heavy work in that house. And maybe because you've been doing that, you've realized that the current job, health, diet, lifestyle just isn't right anymore. So use that energy, everything that you've learned with Saturn in the fourth, to create this new plan of action in your sixth house. And the results will be worth it because Jupiter and Uranus want to bring something new to you in this house. And at the end of this month, Jupiter is moving into your seventh house. So do the hard work now, because once Jupiter goes into your seventh house, it can either help you establish a new expansive relationship or help you expand on the relationships, right? It doesn't have to be just romantic. The one-on-one relationships that you have in your life, it can bring new expansive partners or expand the relationships that you already have. And so what kind of energy do you want to move into that cycle with? I'm going to do a video on Jupiter in Gemini in a little bit. And let me know if you guys want me to also do tarot. I've been asking some signs. I've been forgetting for some. But I like pulling advice cards, especially because that's a long transit. So I want you guys to know. So let me know in the comments if for the Jupiter Gemini video, I should just do astrology or add tarot as well. But yeah, so because Jupiter is moving into that house, that's a big house. It's an angular house for you. So you're doing the hard work now. And then we'll talk about Jupiter and Gemini and where that could bring you. So with that being said, let's do a advice card pull for you. So advice for Sagittarius during this new moon. Advice for Sag, Sun and Rising during this new moon. Okay, fine. Okay, that's great. But I'm gonna get another one actually. Okay. Oh my goodness, you guys, what the heck? Okay. I love this for you. I just love this for you. Okay, so the first thing I got was the star. This is a card of faith and renewal. The star is a card of hope. This is like after you've gone through a hard time, hope is coming. It is coming. Okay. Like I said, Saturn in the fourth doesn't feel like super fun. Saturn anywhere doesn't feel super fun. I love Saturn. Okay. I love Saturn. Just, it's not always fun. That's not the word I would use for Saturn. It's not fun. And so this is saying like, hold on, have hope, things will get better. And then I've got the Six of Wands, which it just makes me laugh because it's like, I was talking about like maybe Saturn doing all this inner work is making you realize like the current situation, the current job, health, diet, lifestyle isn't for you. The sixth house is also pets. So everything I said, you can also talk about pets within that too. But if this work that Saturn's having you do is making you recognize that the sixth house stuff is not working for you anymore and you're moving away. And in here, we see them moving away. But what we also see is that the water is tumultuous here and it's calm here. So you're moving away from something that's more tumultuous and difficult, and you're moving into calmer waters. It's coming. And yeah, so these two together are just like, I mean, I don't know if you're a Sagittarius sun rising, are you going through a tough time? Let me know in the comments down below. Do these bring you hope? They should. They should, because it's saying that you're moving away from something that is not serving you, and to have hope because things are going to get better for you. They just are. Okay, I think that's it for Sagittarius sun and rising, and I will see you guys next time. Good luck. All right, my Capricorn sun and risings. This new moon is happening in your 5th house. There's a sextile by Saturn in your 3rd house. So let's get a little bit of history here. Saturn, North Node was in your 5th house in Taurus from January 2022 to July 2023. Now, during this time, there is an expansion of that house in a way that's like not like Jupiterian. North Node expands in a more obsessive way. It brings complications. It brings complexity, but it also like brings new into your life, right? So you might have had during that time a lot of new experiences in your 5th house things: joy, entertainment, fun, play, romance, passion, creativity, your hobbies. So there could have been a lot of newness in your life. And then Jupiter moved into this part of your chart in May of 2023. So somewhere between May and July of 2023 until now, Jupiter has been asking you, okay, we learned a lot. There's a lot of new experiences. Which ones do we want to actually focus on expanding? Which ones are we going to continue to take with us? Because the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that happened in your 5th house, which I made a video about, I'll link it below, definitely check that out. It's still really important, is wanting to bring you a new something even better in your 5th house. And yet it cannot do that if it's bogged, if it's not refining and simplifying and consolidating all the new experiences that you had. Because that was probably a crazy time for you in terms of 5th house stuff, right? There were just like a lot of new experiences you were having. Some of it's staying, some of it's going. So this is the process you've been in since May, June, July of 2023. And yeah, so when you have space, when you clear out space, Jupiter-Uranus can bring in new. And also, Jupiter is going to be moving into Gemini at the end of the month. So that's not quite as grounded and stabilizing as having Jupiter in your, I just got something. As having Jupiter in Taurus, what I got was when Jupiter moves into your 6th, the 6th house is not not an easy house to have Jupiter in. Malefics do better in the 6th house. So when you have Jupiter in the 6th house, it doesn't love being in that house. Also, it's ruled by Virgo. That house is ruled by Virgo, and Jupiter is in detriment in Virgo, and Jupiter is already in detriment in Gemini. So it's not really happy being in Gemini in the 6th house. So what I could see, just one example, is that if your hobbies, the way you have fun and entertainment, all this Taurus stuff that you've been going through, is not consolidated and really streamlined, and you're taking the wrong things with you into this new Jupiter and Gemini cycle, there could be health issues. There could be health, diet, fitness, work issues as well, because 6th house is your work and your work environment. So this new moon, though, gives you an opportunity to say, what do I want to take with me? What do I want to stabilize in my 5th house of all those things I mentioned that I think would be helpful for me to take forward into this new 14-year cycle of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, as well as Jupiter moving into Gemini in my 6th house, right? Because then that can bring well, you know what? I'm going to make a video on Jupiter and Gemini. So, and we'll talk about this stuff kind of again. So that'll be probably coming out in like a week or two, but what I also feel like is that Saturn is sextiling this new moon in your 5th house from the 3rd house. And I could see like, so Saturn's wanting to support this. And the third house is the third house of communication, writing, thoughts, and your immediate environment. I could see this as being, I was channeling your energy earlier, and this is what I wrote. I could see this as being, for one example, having to see if your thoughts and communications within your home life, with your mom, or with anyone who lives with you, needs to be examined, or if they are contributing to your overall enjoyment, peace, and harmony in your life, or the fun that you want to have in life. Because you have Mercury and Chiron and North Node in your fourth house. But Mercury, Chiron are joining together on the same day as a new moon in your fourth house. And so there's a lot of focus on your home life right now. So you could be moving during this transit. And if you do, the move could be healing for you. But regardless, there's a lot of healing asking to happen in your fourth house. And with Saturn in the third, I feel like there's something about the way you communicate within the home or internally, because the fourth house can be your internal home. It can be aggressive because it's in conjunction with Chiron in Aries, which is it can be aggressive at times. The communication can be aggressive. So is that holding you back from being able to fully enjoy the passion, romance, love, fun, and entertainment that the Jupiter and Uranus conjunction want to give you, and the seeds that you want to plant in your fifth house? Like, just think about that. It's just something to ponder, you know? Yeah, so yeah, I think that's it, okay? Because the rest of it is just kind of repetitive. I tend to be very repetitive, which I think sometimes is annoying, but other times I feel like things just need to be repeated. So let's get some advice for Capricorn Sun and Rising during this new moon. What is an advice card that we can give Capricorn Sun and Rising? Okay, this kind of, I want to go with that. Okay, interesting. Okay, so interesting. I got these cards before. So, okay, the first one I get is the Five of Swords. So the card of fighting. So what and this is swords is thoughts and words. This is like a air element. So like literally what I was just saying about how maybe there's something to do with your speech that is causing a lot of conflict within the home or within people in your life, and that's holding you back. And this is something that is really during this new moon with Mercury conjunct Chiron for the third time. I also talk about the Mercury conjunct Chiron in my in the first part of the video I did about this, which I'll link down below. Listen to that video as well, especially the Mercury Chiron part, to get a more holistic understanding of what's going on with that and the timeline of that, because this is the third time they're meeting. But it feels like there's something about communication that is wanting to be healed within you, especially within your home life, to give you more prosperity, abundance in your fifth house. Really, like I think that your life will become so much more fun and you'll have so much more romance and passion and creativity if you can work on this, okay? And the other thing is that I've got the Seven of Pentacles. And I just got this for Sagittarius, so that's so interesting. But the Seven of Pentacles to me is like you're working hard and you may feel disappointed. You may feel like you're putting in effort and it's not paying off. And as Capricorn Sun and Rising, like you guys are ruled by Saturn. Like that is you guys can access this energy of recognizing that maybe there's a long game here and you're putting in this work and you're not seeing immediate results. Number one, are your expectations reasonable? And number two, have you given it enough time? Maybe the things that you're doing, the effort that you're putting in to whatever you're putting effort into right now is not paying off right now. But if you believe that it could and your expectations are reasonable, then know that you will be rewarded, because Saturn rewards and it's in your third house. So once again, there's a lot of, it's interesting. I'm getting a lot of information about like communication for you guys. And if you can work on that and work on your home life and your communication, then Saturn will repay you. It will repay you. And in the next video, we'll talk about Jupiter and Gemini and talk about some of the things that could be happening with that. I feel like I could say so much for you guys, but I want to just leave it at that. And good luck, Capricorn, with this new moon. I will see you guys later. All right, so Aquarius, sun and rising. It's interesting. When I started this reading and I was channeling people's energies, I was so weird about it this time. Like I channeled some energies and other ones I was like, I'm gonna wait till I'm in the video. But you guys, I felt very drawn to, and I almost actually did your guys' reading first because I was like, I'm so drawn. I was like, I couldn't get away, and I actually already did your tarot card reading while I was channeling your energy because I was like, I want more information. So we'll talk about that. But basics first. So this new moon is happening in your fourth house, and it's being sextiled by Saturn in your second house. So let's get some history, a little history lesson for you guys. I want you to think about what was going on in your life in your fourth house. So in your home, your roots, your deep inner emotional foundation, maybe the relationship with your mom, your home life, the house that you live in, property that you own. What was going on from January 22nd, January 2022 until July 2023? There was a lot of energy being focused in that area of your chart during that time. And what the North Node does is it really brings in new experiences. So maybe you bought a new home, maybe you moved a lot, maybe there was a lot of, you were learning a lot about your childhood trauma and healing that, or just learning about about your mom, and your mom was playing a really big part of your life during that time. There's so many iterations that could happen, but what happened was Jupiter moved into that house in May of 2023. So sometime between May and July of 2023, there's been a slowness in that part of your life. Now, what that means to me is that like Jupiter expands, right? So Jupiter moved into Taurus, but Taurus is about simplicity. So it doesn't want to have a ton of things on its plate. It's like, okay, we can expand on a few things. That's like Jupiter in Taurus. And the thing is you have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in your fourth house on April 20th. It's still within orb during this new moon in Taurus, same part of your chart. Watch my Jupiter-Uranus video to get a more holistic understanding of what that's wanting to bring for you. But what this new moon is giving you an opportunity to do is to plant your own desire, the seed that you want to grow in your fourth house. And it's being stabilized by Saturn in your second. So Jupiter and Uranus and this new moon cannot bring in new things if you're overwhelmed in the fourth house. So that's why Jupiter has been trying to refine, declutter, consolidate, simplify, streamline things in that house so that there's space for something new to come in. And during this new moon, you get an opportunity to be involved in that new thing that's coming in. And because Saturn's there, it's asking you to make sure this is grounded. And this is just a very stabilizing time in the beginning of May. The first week of May is very stabilizing. And so you want to take advantage of that, because then Jupiter is going to go in Gemini at the end of the month. We're going to have more planets in Gemini. It's not going to be as stable, and it's going to be a little bit easier for you though, because it's moving out of your angular fourth house and it's going into your fifth house of fun, play, creativity. And I'm going to be doing a video on Jupiter and Gemini, so definitely look out for that. And but I just wanted to say, like, use this time to create something that is stable in that fourth house, so that you can then take flight and go into that fifth house and have fun and allow all of the things that Jupiter and Gemini wants to bring for you, and also allow Jupiter and Uranus in the background to be creating this beautiful 14-year cycle for you in your fourth house. All right, so let's see some of the things I channeled for you guys earlier. Okay, so Saturn in your second house is asking how your core values, your material resources, self-esteem, or your income can help you really stabilize a new beginning in your fourth house. I could see this as you guys are just have been really tending to your private life, like during that whole all that history that I talked about. It's really your private life, and especially since May or July of last year, 2023, I feel like you guys have been kind of in like a hermit mode almost, because there's this like clearing out of like what are we keeping, what's staying, what's going in your fourth house, whether that's your actual house or your physical home. Regardless, it gives me this kind of like hermit energy. So this just makes me really feel like this new moon can be a really beautiful, solid foundation that's necessary in your fourth house. And I talked about Jupiter already, and we'll talk about that more. I'm excited to do that. Okay, so the advice cards I got for you guys were the Two of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles. And I don't have them here. Yeah, well, okay. Oh, Queen of Pentacles. Okay, well, we have this one. So here's a Queen of Pentacles. And this is interesting because to me, like when I look at Queen of Pentacles, this is like peak Jupiter in Taurus energy, because the Queen of Pentacles is like the nurturing mom, but in a very physical, material way, because this is Pentacles, it's the earth element. So it's like being at home and cooking and giving you cuddles and kisses and cleaning up after you. And that's the kind of nurturing that we get. So this is like totally, really like Taurus in the fourth house, you know? And what it got me thinking about was, let me see what I have here. Right. Okay. So they're both pentacles. So you have the Two of Pentacles and the Queen of Pentacles. So both money cards. And it's interesting because I'm talking about Saturn in your money house, right? And how is this helping you build a new stable foundation and a new beginning in your fourth house? And so there's stuff going on with money, and you've got Pluto in your guys' sign. It just moved in there not that long ago. So there's like this all of a sudden this intensity in Aquarius, you know? So you're probably really feeling that, but there's a lot going on. And the Two of Pentacles to me, I wish I had it, is really about balance, because I want you guys to see it. And so I first got the Two of Pentacles and I was like, okay, balance. And then I got the Queen of Pentacles. And so what it made me think about was that because this is the Queen of Pentacles is like mother energy, and we're talking about the fourth house, that there's a balance that maybe is needed between the fourth and 10th house, because we recently had a full moon in Scorpio. And I did a video for you guys. Yay, there it is. I did a video for you guys on that, and I talked about how there's a lot of energy in your fourth house, and that Scorpio full moon is happening in your 10th house, and it's saying, hey, if you're having a tough time, you know, look for the forest, look at the forest for the trees. What is it? Something. Okay, look at the big picture is what I was trying to say, because the 10th house is like your public life and like your life out in the world. So if you're feeling very internal and like inside of you, like it's funny because I'm a Leo rising, so it's like the opposite. Like my life is like very much out there, and I keep having to come back to the inner self and like really like tend to my private life. And you guys are kind of like the opposite. It's like there's some balance that's needed here. And you know what the Two of Pentacles also says to me is like you're running around like doing a bunch of stuff, and then you're not really seeing like the big picture. It's like, okay, it's keeping you almost busy, and it's pentacles, so it's like it feels like you're juggling too much, and in some ways you're not balancing enough. So tending to the nurturance in your fourth house is beautiful, but also remember to balance that with what's going on in the public life, and that might help give you some perspective. And also looking at the bigger picture is coming up again, because it's like this person is just like, I've got to like balance these two things, and not really able to look at the big picture because they're focused on what they're doing right now. Yeah, I think that's it. So let me know how that resonates for you guys, and I will see you later, Aquarius. Good luck with this new moon. So for my Pisces sun and rising, like the Aquarius, I felt so I was like really wanting to tune into your guys' energy before I made the video. So I actually did an advice card with tarot for you before. I feel like I want to pull another one though. Why is that happening? Okay, we'll see. So this new moon's happening in your third house. We've been talking about the third house a lot here because there's a lot of energy in that part of your chart. And then you've got Saturn in your first house. So before we talk about that, I want to talk a little bit of history with you guys. Okay, January of 2022, North Node moved into your third house of Taurus. And during that time, there was a huge increase in travel, like daily commutes, not generally not long distance travel, but like commutes here and there, going from here and there. Communication, writing. There was an increase in like learning skills. So not like higher education, but learning, maybe getting certificates or getting like a trade certification or learning about things like that, skills. Um, there was just a lot of focus on movement. The third house, there's a lot of movement and also a lot of being around like like a lot of focus on your immediate environment. So maybe there was a lot going on with your siblings during that time. Maybe there was a lot going on with your cousins, your neighbors, and that there's so much focus on that. And when Jupiter moved into this part of your chart in May of 2023, so sometime between May of 2023 to July of that time until now, Jupiter has been saying, okay, we got so many new experiences in that third house, and we need to kind of refine that because Jupiter in Taurus is all about simplifying and finding expansive qualities in the simplification. And also because Jupiter and Uranus are still conjunct during this new moon. And I made a video about the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. Check that out to see how that affects you. I'll link it below because that's also just still really important. It's a 14-year cycle and it has to do with this. And I'm going to talk about it when I do my Jupiter in Gemini video later this month. So Jupiter wanted to ask you from all of those new experiences in your third house, what are we keeping? What are we expanding on? And what are we getting rid of? Because we want to bring something new with that Jupiter Uranus conjunction. And in order for something new to come, there needs to be space, right? There needs to be openness. Things have to go so new things can come. And with this new moon, it's giving you an opportunity to plant a new seed in that part of your life in the third house that you want to come to fruition. And it's being sextiled by Saturn in your first house. So I just want to say, I channeled your guys' energy beforehand. Just for you and Aquarius, really, is the ones I did the most. But the advice card I got was the Ace of Pentacles, which made me want to bring up the Mercury Chiron conjunction that's happening in your second house because it's happening for the third time on May 7th with a new moon. In the part 1 video I did of this new moon, I talked about Mercury and Chiron a little bit more, but so check that video out so you can get a more holistic understanding of that. But when I got the advice card of Ace of Pentacles, I was like, oh, that's really interesting because I wouldn't have been drawn to that aspect as much. But then I was like, wait a minute, they do have a lot of stuff going on in their second house, which is because the Ace of Pentacles is about like manifestation, wealth, abundance, starting, it's like a new job opportunity. If I can find it. Oh yeah, here it is. It's like literally a coin being offered to you. So this could be in terms of money. And when I've done readings, when I see this card, this very distinct pattern of getting job offers. That's just one way that it can manifest. But it really is like something is wanting to become, there is material abundance that wants to come to you. There is abundance in general that wants to come to you. And in that video I was talking about, they did the part 1 for this new moon, I talked about the Sabian symbol for this new moon, about like how this is about inner abundance. It doesn't always, like, money doesn't equate to abundance, right? Like there's like material abundance and then there's like inner abundance. So this could be either or for you guys. I could see it being both, okay? And the Mercury Chiron conjunction too that's happening on the same day is all about our communication. So, which is interesting because the new moon is happening in your third house of communication. So, for you guys in Capricorns, I feel like there's a lot around communication, but it's different because for you guys, Mercury rules your fourth and seventh house. And so this could be communication with people in your home or with your romantic partner or with your business partner or really anybody that you deal with one on one. And so maybe there's, because Mercury in Aries conjunct Chiron in Aries is like aggression. So, maybe there is a sense of that in your life that you're learning to heal. Like I said, either in your home life or in your one-to-one relationships, that is really important and needs to be worked on in order to receive this abundance. Like, you can't be hostile in your communication and in your thought patterns with your fourth and seventh house life. Those are angular houses with your relationships and your home, people you live with, and then want abundance and manifestation and all this good stuff. So it's like you get Taurus, this new moon in Taurus, which the moon likes being in Taurus, and it's Taurus is about harmony and beauty and relationships. And so it's giving you an opportunity during this new moon to plant a new seed in your communication along with Mercury and Chiron conjunct in your fourth house. Not in your fourth house, in your second house. All of this is regarding communication and abundance. So it's like there's a link somehow between communication and abundance. So this could even be like you're writing and the writing is healing. You're writing a piece of work, poetry, memoir, a book, a fiction book. You're writing something and it's healing, and that's going to lead to material abundance. That could be another manifestation. I'm just saying I'm seeing this connection between speaking thoughts and healing, speaking thoughts, and money. So maybe you just need to be speaking your mind, like in a way that's healing and not hurting. Because Mercury in conjunct Chiron in Aries reminds us that words have power and they can hurt or they can heal, right? So maybe you're just needing. This is asking you to speak your mind more, and when you do that, it's gonna be a way for abundance for you, inner abundance or material abundance. When I was channeling this, I really felt this that there's some issues with communication that could be holding you back financially. So, not speaking enough, speaking too aggressively, or on the other side is like if you are taking advantage of this healing energy, like I said, using the third house and communication stuff to bring abundance into your life. I felt drawn to do one more advice card for you guys. I don't know why, but I'm going to go with it. Okay. So, can we get one more advice card for Pisces, Sun, and Rising for this new moon in Taurus? Pisces, Sun, and Rising. Just keep that over here. Interesting. Okay, so we got the Seven of Swords. Now, this card could be a lot of different things. Now, I want to say it is interesting that it is in the swords because that is the air element, which is having to do with speech and thoughts and communication. So we've talked about that a lot. There's something about betrayal and deception in this card. So one of two things could be happening. Either you are being deceptive to someone, and sometimes this happens subconsciously, right? And this is why like Saturn in the first house is like really bringing your attention to yourself. Like it's really asking for a lot of self-awareness right now. And maybe you're being deceptive or being vague, which I love Pisces so much. Like literally, Pisces energy is one of my favorite. I have a ton of 12th house placements, but sometimes there's a tendency to be elusive with this energy. So like maybe you're being deceptive through being elusive, or you could be on the other end where you are feeling betrayed. You are feeling like there is deceit around you. And this is just making you become aware of one of those two situations. Now, what this card can also say, like, in a way, like this guy is like stealing 5 of these swords. So in a way, it's like you could look at it in a positive way of like you are being strategic right now. And that's okay. Like you may need to be thinking about yourself. Like you've got Saturn in the first house. You've got to take care of yourself. Ah, yes, that feels really like you need to hear that. Like you need to be taking care of yourself right now. Number one, Saturn in Pisces isn't like just by itself like is not the best placement. To me, it feels like a lot of water issues. So you could have like inflammation or just water retention or fluid in your body. This is Saturn and Pisces to me feels like very rigid. So we could be like tearing ligaments or just hurting ourselves in ways because we're like dry. I don't know. Anyways, so when you have it in your sign, it really is doesn't love being in there. So there is, why was I saying that? Oh, you may need to put more attention on yourself because when Saturn's in there, it's like you are feeling the weight of self-awareness, of your attitude, what you are putting out in the world and how your outlook is of the world, especially if you're a Pisces rising. So you may need to put yourself first right now. And that may mean that you have to be strategic and you can't give to other people as much as you'd like to. And that's okay. That is totally okay because sometimes we need to do that. So maybe this is what this card is saying to you too. Like, it's okay if you need to put yourself first right now. It's really hard for some Pisces people. Like you guys feel everything. You guys feel everything. And so you can't be everything to everyone. And sometimes you just need to focus on you. And I think that is also a really good advice for you during this new moon. Use it to your advantage. Make this, even though we're talking about communication with other people, it's about your role. So make this new moon about you, how you communicate, how you show up in these relationships, and yeah, everything else that I said. And let me know how this resonates for you guys, okay? And I will see you next time. Good luck, Pisces.